Hello there, it's Jay here from Jay's Vintage Junk, and today I thought we would have a look at this. Now, what we have here is a standard hi-fi record player, probably dating from the very late 1960s, early 1970s. This is a player that came to me from a dealer. As I've mentioned in other videos, I used to do quite a lot of record player servicing work for a particular dealer. And he never used to like to spend too much money, and basically what happened, he brought a dance set for me to service for him. It needed a new cartridge, and he brought me this as a donor for its cartridge, and basically said have it for its spares once you've taken the cartridge out of it. And it was in such really nice condition. I mean, if you look at the cabinet on it, the Rexine, it really is unmarked. It's a little bit dirty from storage, but there's no major tears or fag burns or blemishes on the actual vinyl. It's actually really, really nice. And I thought, there's no way I'm stripping that down for spares. It's a record player to service and get going and get back out there for someone to enjoy. Unfortunately, someone's had a go at it before me. It might have been the guy that gave it me. It might be how he got it. I don't know, but there's bits missing now. Basically, I'll show you what the main issues with it are. If we take the top off, and the top just pulls off like that. Even that, like I said, it is in really, really quite nice condition, the cabinet. Even the chrome's not horrendous. That'll polish up with a little bit of metal polish on it. The hinges at the back are a little bit crusty, but again, I can make them look a lot nicer with a little bit of metal polish. Inside we have a BSR Monarch miniature deck. Obviously we have a missing cartridge there, but that's not a major issue. It's quite a lightweight head. These are not the best turntables for playing your treasured vinyl on, but if you've got some old crappy like 45s that are like flea market or charity shop kind of stuff, no problem playing them on this. You're not going to make them any worse. So it's a very basic, well, it's not maybe the most basic BSR deck, but it's quite a basic deck. I think it's got basically just auto on, it comes to the centre and then shuts itself off. I think that's how it works. You possibly move the cartridge, you move the arm one way to start it, and then when it comes to the end, it might auto return. I very much doubt it. I think it'll probably just stop there. But not too bad a deck, at least it's sprung. It is a sprung deck. But one major problem we've got with this player is, and someone has bodged a new power connector in. These did use a 2-pin connector originally, but it was rather non-standard, and you needed a special lead to fit it in. And what someone's done is they've took a figure of 8 connector, probably off in like an old tape recorder or something. Many things use the standard figure of 8. You can swap round like that, and they've hacked that in there. I mean, we've got a wood screw holding it in at that side, and we've got probably a machine screw holding it in at that side. So it's been pretty much bodged in, that, unfortunately. It would have, I think, originally been dual voltage, 110 and 220, but that seems to have not be as it should be. So someone's obviously done some work in there. I've never actually opened this thing up. It came for its cartridge. I took its cartridge off to get the dance set back to its customer, and then I put this in storage until I dug it out, and I thought I will get around to getting that thing going. Other thing that's missing here is there should be a battery cover on there, because unlike most of these players, this is actually a mains or battery player. So you could have, I presume it would have been like a magazine that had took a load of CRD cells that would have clipped in there, and then there would have been a plate that obviously fits on there to cover it in. That's missing. That magazine that would have taken the batteries in there is missing, and that's all by the by. I could blank off that I could just use it for mains power only, it'd be fine. But the major problem we've got, if we actually open it up and we take the platter off, obviously because it's a mains battery unit, it has a low voltage motor, and that's where the major issue with this particular player is, because you should have a step drive on the motor there, specifically for the battery version, to select the different speeds. As you see, there's a slide. It's a bit gummed up, this, but we can sort that out at a later date. As we move the selector, as you can see, it basically that moves up and down, and on that shaft there, can you see that on where I'm pointing to on there? Basically on that motor shaft there should be like a stepped pulley, that this, as it moves up and down, it steps on the different steps like that, and that's how it actually changes the speed of the platter, the speed of the turntable. And that step gear is missing, and that is the major problem with this unit. Now, if I still had access to a lathe, I could possibly have made one of them. If I'd had one I could copy, because I need to know exactly how big it is, because obviously if you got the size of the steps wrong, the platter's going to spin at the wrong speed. But I don't have access to a lathe anymore, unfortunately. It's on my to-do list to purchase one day when I've actually got some money again. A small metalworking lathe, something kind of, well, that kind of size. But unfortunately, when they do turn up for sale, they are usually horrendously expensive, because a lot of people want them, small little lathes like that. So I can't go that route. What I'm planning to do is, I've actually got, I don't know whether this is going to work or not. This is, like I said, this is just really an experiment to see if I can actually make something out of this this player, because it's got such a nice cabinet on it. I have this horrible thing. Now what this is, let's just move that out of the way so you can see this. This is what we're referred to as a vanity case style record player. And this is from probably the late 1950s up into the earlier part of the 1960s. And these were what you would have for your bedroom, basically. Looks like a lady's vanity case. And when you pop it open, obviously we have a record player. Now, I generally speaking don't really restore these things. They were horrendous. They don't sound particularly good. Generally speaking, they're not very safe. They have asbestos in them, quite a lot of asbestos in them, and it is very, it's very difficult to remove. That's not to say that I won't restore one of these if someone brings one to that used to be granny's and they really want it up and running. I will more than happily restore it for them. But for me to sell on to someone who wants a nice record player to play their records on, no, they are awful, these things, really. But, and this one in itself, I mean, I've pillaged most useful parts off this. Its cartridge has obviously gone for a much better player. In fact, I think I've pretty much stripped the amplifier in this. Oh yeah, I'll just show you the problem with the asbestos in these. I mean, asbestos isn't as dangerous as everyone makes out, but this is quite nasty. We have a big sheet of white asbestos, and it can get very, very powdery. So what I usually do if I do have to do anything with these is outside with full dust mask on, and I dampen all this down and have to use a wallpaper scraper and scrape it all off, keeping it all damp, get that into a bag where I can dispose of it safely, and then I actually have to paint the bottom of the player where this was with a resin, so it stabilises any of the asbestos that's been left over, and usually I consider that's fairly safe then. But yeah, these players aren't brilliant, but what it does have is it has a mains motor, which I am hoping, this is these are BSR decks as well, and BSR did have a tendency to basically use the same motor throughout the decades. So what I'm hoping is that I can take the motor out of this and transfer it into the standard player we've got there, and actually convert the standard player to a mains only unit. So the first thing we're going to do is we'll take out the useful bit out of this, which is the motor. I won't destroy the rest of it because there are still plenty of handy useful little bits I can possibly use off this for other people's repairs. We need to get the turntable off. Now these can be a bit of a pain to remove if I remember rightly. In fact, I might not. Oh yeah, I can pop that off without taking that off. Let's have a look. We'll get the motor out of this one, and then we will get onto the standard, and we'll have a look what we can do with the standard. It is going to need a lot of work. This isn't going to be a one-part video. I think we'll be doing a fair bit on this thing to get it. There's the clip, and that's missing off the standard one as well. So the clip will come in handy. So we can hopefully get the turntable off there now, which we can. You can really see how cheap these things are, but you can also see that there is what we're talking about. That is what is missing off the other player that we want to restore. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these 3 clips off there, and we'll drop the motor out of this player. Now let's see what we can get hold of them with. We really need a small. That'll do nicely. Let's get that in there, and we'll pop these clips off. Get this motor out of this one. There we go. Heard it drop them. We'll take them off there, and what we will do, because they actually looked in really good order on this, we'll just squidge the little rubber grommets out as well, and we'll use the best of the rubber grommets that we've got, because them ones actually are in really nice condition. And in fact, that idler wheel is in really nice condition as well. That's really flexible. These tend to go hard, and when they go hard you get more record noise because you get a rumble off them. But that one, actually, I'm quite surprised. It's really still quite flexible and supple. Let's have a feel of the one on the standard. Actually, that one's not bad either. So I'll leave that on there for now. At least we know where I've got a decent idler wheel for next time I need one. Let's oops, get that in there. Put that down there. Let's get the bits we've salvaged. So we've got the motor, and we've got the grommets. Let's put this back in its old case, and this can go back into storage. I'll go there, so I can put that back into storage. So there is our motor, and hopefully that motor will fit this deck. So let's get the old standard back in. I really don't know the standard make very well. It's not a record player that I'm very familiar with this, and I must admit I did have a quick look for some service data for it, and I couldn't find anything. I will say them screws don't look original, so I think the screws have been changed at some point. So I wouldn't have expected it to have had a Phillips head, little black screws like this. They look a little bit modern. They don't look horrendous though. They might leave them in, but they're certainly not what would have been in there originally. Let's pop them out. And let's get this BSR deck, this BSR Monarch deck, out of this player, and we can have a quick look at it. We can have a look inside the player as well. So I don't know whether the amplifier is dead in this. It will be transistorized, it won't be valve, because obviously it's a mains battery. But amplifiers are easy, that's not a problem. We can always fix an amplifier. Oops, and drop a screwdriver. It's just, I don't want to break this up. The case is far too nice, so I don't mind doing a little bit of hackery to get it into a working player again, providing we can reuse it. And we've got this nice, ooh, Here we've got a nice little transistorized amplifier in there. What I will probably do... Right. Oh, there's some hackery for you. We have a fuse in there with... in fact, I'll take you off the tripod and I'll show you in here what we've got. It's definitely been worked on by somewhat of a bodger, this, by the look of it. Let me whip you off the old tripod and I'll show you. There we go. As we come in over here. Now, let me see if I can switch it on to macro, so you see if it'll come in a little bit clearer. Can you see that fuse down there? Now that is very naughty. Obviously the fuse has gone pop and someone has just soldered a bit of wire across the fuse. There we can see the figure of 8 connector that's rather nastily bodged in there. We've got wires that would have gone to the switch, because it's obviously been salvaged out, like I said, out of a cassette recorder or something. They would have gone to the battery shut-off, which haven't been used, even though this is a battery set as well as a mains set. So if it had have had the battery cover on the back there, and someone had tried powering it up through the mains, there's a chance it would have tried to charge the batteries, and all kinds of nasty things would have happened. So yeah, it's definitely had some work done it by, how shall we say, someone that wasn't exactly knew what they were doing. They had more enthusiasm than expertise. Right, let me put you back on the old tripod and make sure you're out of macro. Right, let's get you back on there so you can see what's going on. There we go. Right, you can see the player well enough there. So, the first thing we're going to do, let's have a look here, is we want to take this deck, just remove the deck from the rest of the player, and we'll work on these two parts separately for now. So I'll get the old soldering iron and we'll pop the wiring off here. Looks like it's a mono player, this, but it looks like it could have an extension speaker to make it stereo, because the pickup's wired for stereo. The head shell, sorry, is wired for stereo. Just come on, out you come. Come on. There we go, that's the first one out. I'm pretty sure that the cartridge that I took out of this was mono. So it might have just been an option. They made the players so they were stereo compatible, but didn't probably just put a mono cartridge in them. I'm not 100%, can't 100% remember what cartridge this thing actually had in it originally. Like I say, I know that it had a good cartridge in it and I used it on his Dan set. Let's take that off there. All these wires basically do, like I say, it's from the it goes from the pickup to the amplifier, and this one goes to an external an output at the back there, a line level output that you'd feed into another amplifier to give you stereo. We will convert this to just a pure mono player, because these little players, that's really all they're great for, is, like I said, throw in some old 45s or an old 33 that you've picked up in the junk shop or in the charity shop on, and they sound okay. They sound certainly a damn sight better than that player that we've just pinched the motor out of. Right, we've got a connection to the low voltage motor there, so we can disconnect that. Now the really good thing about that little BSR mono deck is I know for a fact that they did a wholly mains version of it, and it's basically exactly the same deck, only it has a mains motor, not a low voltage DC motor. I know that because I have actually repaired a couple of players, including a very, very, very fancy thing that came from Canada. It was like in a big dome, like a big perspex dome like that, and it's one of these things that all the trendies go mad over. Very 1960s space age thing. Still a bloody awful player, but all the hipsters go mad over stuff like that, and that had exactly the same deck on as this. Only problem with that being, because it was a Canadian player, it ran on 110 volts at 60 Hertz. So even with a step down transformer, it played at the wrong speed because the guy had imported it, and he'd bought a step-down transformer to allow him to use it in the UK, and then discovered that when he played his records on it, they all sounded funny because they were all playing at the wrong speed. So I actually, I basically did the same as this, and I fitted a British 50 Hz motor and a new transformer in it. I converted the whole unit to run on 240 volts, and it was fine then. Still, like I said, they've got a lot more luck than they have actually hi-fi ability. But, right, come out. You come off here. There we go. That's that disconnected. So, we've got our deck out, and this is what we're going to work on first. I think first thing we're going to, let's get that out of the way. Then we've got that to play with. I'm going to put that. I'm glad that I cleared my workshop up the other day. I've actually got room to do things like this now. I was getting a little on the cluttered side. Right, let's put that in there. Let's put the clip on it to keep it down. It should clean up quite nicely, this deck. There's a little bit of corrosion on it there. It's a bit filthy in there. The grease is gone like grease goes. The grease is horrible, actually. But before we start looking at that, like I said, I'm going to see if we can fit this motor and we can actually get this to run and play. Well, at least just to run and spin the turntable and allow me to see whether I can select some different speeds with it. And then we'll probably service this properly, get it all nice and clean, get this all nice and working fully, and then we'll look at the rest of the record player. But for today, let us take this DC motor out. Come on, out you come. I don't know where that. Well, it'll turn up in a minute. Pop these clips off. Come on, off you come. There's another one's dropped inside. And the last one. There we go. That's off. That's off. That's off. I can get the DC motor out now. There we go. Ooh, let's have a look here. Now we've got the switch unit. Again, that's identical to the mains powered version of this player, so I'm not actually worried about that. I won't use that for now though. Let's just chop these wires. I'll leave plenty of cable on them though, because that will go in my spares box for if I ever get another battery player in with a bad motor in it. I don't think there's anything actually wrong with that motor. Presume it'll be 6 volts. It's probably a 6 volt motor. There's a bit of play in the actual shaft on it. It's probably had quite a lot of use, but I will throw that in my bearings are obviously rather dry in that, and we will look at the bearings and oil the bearings up. In fact, I wonder if I've oiled the bearings in that before, because that is really, that's fine. Look at that. That's spinning really quite nicely. Right, let's see if that will fit in here. And again, we've got lucky. These the rubber bushings are in really nice condition. It's quite unusual that most of these players that I repair, these bushings have worn out, and one of the major problems you have is that the motor drops because these have perished, and then as you select your speeds, because that motor is then sat down slightly further, let's say, basically when you pull it over to the different speeds, you select the wrong speeds. So let's see if this will go in there and everything will line up nicely. Well, that lines up, and that doesn't line up, but what it does show is if we move that peg down a little bit, we need to move that to the next position there, this should fit. So, let's get a screwdriver in there. That's tight. That's really tight. Ah, there we go. I'll move that over here. Now let's see if this will now fit. It should do now. Yeah, look at that. Let's just spin that round. As you can see, that motor now fits, and that looks like it lines up perfectly. What we need to do is put the circlips back on, put the washers on and put the circlips back on, and then we've got this motor fitted in this turntable, this platter. Alright, let's stick that in there. That's the first one in. This will all be coming apart again. Like I say, I just want to make sure that this actually installs. That's the last one. We'll put that in there like that, and that seems to have worked out quite nicely. So there's the replacement mains energised motor, and we bring that across there. Yes, I'm happy with that. Bring that on to 78. All seems to line up okay. Obviously we won't know whether it's right until we can actually play a record on it and make sure it actually plays at the right speed, but I am quietly confident that this should actually work, and it should allow us to play at the correct speed. Now the next thing we need to figure out is we have 3 wires here, and that's because these motors in their original guise in that old record player actually act as well as the coil acting as the power for the induction motor. The coil on the induction motor, it also acts as an auto transformer to give the voltage. I think it's about 70 volts needed for the valve heaters that actually run the original valve amplifier that little record player used. So as where 2 of these are mains in and basically mains in and neutral, the other wire is a centre tap. Now I think it's normally the white wire which is the centre tap, and these 2 will be the phase and neutral. What we can do is we'll strip a bit of wire off these, and we'll get the old we will get the old test meter out on the continuity range, and we should be able to figure that out, because the centre tap obviously will have a lower resistance in relation to the other 2 wires as the live and the neutral will, because they're from one end of the coil to the other end of the coil, is where the centre tap is somewhere in the centre of that between them two spots. So let's get you back in position like that. So as you can see, we've got our wires there. That's our 3 wires coming off the replacement motor. Well, can you guess? Yes, my camera decided to do its old tricks again. But never mind, because at least that little delay did allow me to find a couple of suitable boxes to prop up this turntable. So I will stick a couple of what are these? Amazon Premium. Something must have come with them, because I certainly don't use Amazon. But if their boxes are suitable, it's all fine by me. There we are. Let's just get that. So basically all we've done is we've propped the turntable up like that, just so it can sit freely and there's nothing going to catch underneath and catch any of the mechanism, while we just see whether this little kludge that I've come up with to get this deck working is going to actually do what I want. Let's connect it up. So we've got our We've got our black and our green wires there. So if we connect black to neutral, it really doesn't matter which way around you put these two, because it is an induction motor. That one to there. In fact, is it induction motor? If I put it the wrong way around, will it spin backwards? I can't remember. Oh no, it's if I actually turn the coil around in the motor, I can get an induction motor to spin backwards. But we'll shut that down. No, in fact, we'll open that up. We'll put the power on, and when I close this down, hopefully, now I've got it set to 16 RPM, this should start spinning at 16 RPM. So let's turn that down. Oh, there might be a flash and a bang and a bit of smoke. Put that down. Nothing. That's not good. Nope, nothing. Let's turn that off again. Take the turntable off and see if actually the motor's spinning. It could just be it's not, because of all the goop, it's not engaging. Let's try that again. Or I could, of course, not have that connecting very well. That's in there, that seems okay. That's in there and that seems okay. So they're on the safe block alright. The safe block looks okay. Let's shut that back down again. Switch that on. And no. We have no motor spin. That's bad. But we've got continuity on the coil of the motor. Now that is most odd. Now why is that not working? Let's have a look. That should have worked. Let's have a look. I'm possibly wrong here. Where's my multi-tester? Let's test the fuse in the safe block. Can't see the fuse in the safe block have gone funny, but that's definitely switched off there. That's fine. Yep, there's nothing wrong with the fuse in the safe block. And we should have continuity between black and green there. Let's try that again. Black. Yep, we've got continuity there. And the neon is lighting on the safe block. So the safe block is being energized. So why you no work? Let's try that again. I'll just try it the other way around. It should not make any difference, I don't think. But let's try green to neutral, black to live. Like that. Oh, that's come out, has it? Let's try that again. Okay, I could see what I'd done wrong there, and I'm an idiot. I connected the neutral side up to the switch which we'd disconnected. So hopefully, let's try it again this time. And we have a motor spinning anyway. Let's disconnect that. So we have a motor that spins. Let us that's on 16. Let's stick the old turntable back on. There we go. Let's close the safe block, and now hopefully this should start spinning at 16 RPM. Well, you can hear the motor going. But we have no rotation of the turntable. That seems okay. Let's try. It could purely be the amount of grease and gunk. I think I know what it is. Right, yep. let's just disconnect that again for a second. I think it really was just the fact that this mechanism is rather gummed up still. I said we will do a proper service on this mech once I'm happy that this project is actually going to be viable. But what I think had happened is basically that had got stuck in that position, so it wasn't actually dropping down and allowing it to touch the rim of the turntable. Let's try and get that back on. Let's have to push that wheel in now. We don't want to trap the edge of the idler and damage it. There we go. Let's give that another try. There we are. Now it's only turning at 16 RPM as you can see, but in fact, can you actually see that that's turning? Yeah, I think you can. Let's try 33. Now it mightn't change, like I say, it is very, very gummed up this still, but oh yeah. So we've got 33 RPM. It's stalling a bit, it's not running exactly perfectly, like I said, it's speeding up and slowing down a bit, but there's lots and lots of hardened grease in there yet. 45, that seems to work. Let's try 78. And 78, again, lots and lots of hardened grease, but the player is actually, we are actually being able to drive the turntable now, which it certainly was not doing before. Let's drop back down to 16. And it's actually changing speed, which is quite encouraging. Like I said, we've got a little bit of compliance on the platter there. It is a sprung platter, unlike, like I said, that player I showed you earlier, which doesn't have a sprung platter. So every little bit of vibration is picked up by the pickup cartridge there. This is actually much, much better. That's why like I said, I'd quite like to get this one up and running. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there for now. At least we've proved that the Monarch deck is at least possibly viable to repair. So I hope you enjoyed that little starter, and there will certainly definitely be a part 2 to this. So I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.